program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana. Every year without fail, a lot of people languish the beginning of the year. So much so that the first month's moniker is Janu-worry. The explanation is that the suffering is as a result of the many days between the early December paycheck and the first paycheck of the year. There's also the burden on bank accounts from festive spending and holiday shopping. For many, this leads to a common problem of the financial duress of trying to stretch their money until the end of the month of January. A wonder, since the festive break is only about 10 days long. While the assumption is that since this happens every year for a lot of people, they would learn their lesson, surprisingly, it is still a yearly cycle. While making a month's pay last over a period of a month and a half seems like quite the feat, experts say it is not impossible. They say making several adjustments to your spending habits can make January go by with fewer worries and more pulas. Here's how with chartered financial analyst Malik Shehu.
Malik, thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time. We're talking today about the Janu-worry predicament, right? Before we talk about the solutions to it, let us first understand why year in, year out, the same people experience the same problem come the beginning of each year.
Well, the answer to that is simple. You just go 1 month back to who December boss, you know? In December, it's festive, right? And festive means consumerism. Festive means, going on holiday, buying gifts, going out, and so on and so forth. And this all requires money. So when you go back to December, you see that people get paid twice. They get paid for the December salary just end of November, and then they get paid for the January salary, mid-December or closer to, Christmas. And that is too many days in December to have that much money sitting in your bank account.
One may wonder what sort of adjustments they need to make to their spending habits if they're to make their salary that they receive in December last them almost, 2 months into January.
It's just discipline. I mean, you have to be disciplined. If you get paid early in December, you just have to tell yourself that this money is supposed to last me till end of January, until my next paycheck in January. So if you're not really disciplined, then that's it. You're doomed. If it means locking it in a certain account, or giving it to someone to hold it in cash who's more responsible, who's more responsible than you, then go for it. But you just have to tell yourself or remind yourself that this money has to be stretched out in January. One thing I like to say is, in order for you to not fall into the trap of January, one thing you can do is when you get paid your January salary, try to take care of the important stuff. So, for example, if you know that school fees is going to be due, then from your January salary that you get in December, pay that out first. Pay your child's school fees. If you know that you have to pay for rent, then pay your rent very, very early so that you know that when January comes and maybe you are broke, at least you have the essentials taken care of. And then maybe leave some for emergencies or disposable income or entertainment or food in case you need it and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, based on this topic, it's all about just your budgeting properly. To say you have your December budget, which came from your money in November, and then you have your January budget, which comes from your money that you get in December. So if you get your January salary on the 23rd, you have Christmas. That's money that you have to buy. If you have kids, you have to buy them, Christmas gifts. If you have a wife, you have to buy her Christmas gift, husband, and so on and so forth. And then you also have New Year's Eve. Some people like to, spend lavishly when it comes to New Year's. And another thing is also idle time. When you're on holiday, you're just sitting and you have all this money. You want to go out, do this. It's the festive season. So You can sit at home if you don't want to spend, or you can apply the no budget. It's one of my favorites, where you say no to things that detract from your, your future financial goals and stuff. So if your friends are telling you, hi, let's go to South Africa and go have fun, but you didn't budget for that, don't tap into your January salary to go to SA and have fun. You can't do that.
So in the case where somebody actually finds themselves in the January predicament, how do they go about getting back on the saddle?
Enjoy your time at home. You have your food. There's the whole African saying of there's food at home. Yeah, have that within your budgeting, and tell yourself, no, there's food at home. Fuel, you're going to have to transport yourself here and there. If it's work at home, then go work at home. Another way to avoid the January woes is and this is why it's very important to always save, right? Having emergency savings, or just having savings with no end goal in sight, where you just put money aside just in case, is quite important, because imagine you reach December and you have spent your January salary. This is now where your savings come in. If you decided to splurge, go on that holiday, you buy these gifts, do that, maybe there was an emergency that had to take away from your January salary, then this is where your savings come in. They act as a buffer between surviving and borrowing. January comes, you don't have to borrow from anyone. You just tap into your savings. It's your money. And it is an emergency that you need to buy fuel. It is an emergency that you need to buy vegetables or meat because you need to eat. Maybe your work requires you to have a steady, internet. It is an emergency that you need that internet. So it's very important to have emergency savings, because you don't know when you might need them. So I am not saying spend all your January money in December. I'm simply saying your savings protects you from a situation where after you've spent all your money, instead of borrowing, you can then tap into your savings. So it's important to always have some form of liquid savings somewhere that you can use when you need them.
Well, it would be remiss of me to not ask you this, but in your personal and professional capacities, why do you think that we're seeing a proliferation of this occurrence year in, year out from the same people every single time? What are they not learning? Or is it a case of not taking this seriously? Or is it a case of there being a serious problem of being financially illiterate?
It is a real problem, and sometimes it could be based on a number of factors. And in my personal/professional experience, I realized that it's also a psychological thing, or how they were brought up, or the environment, right? If you are surrounded by people who spend, the chances are you adopt the behavior. Another example is how you were brought up. If one parent always used to not spend, or if you grew up from poverty, for example, your life could be based on not wanting to live like you used to when you were younger. So any form of money, now enjoyment, you get what I mean? You get paid, you spend. Now, come December, whereby you were getting money early, you understand, now you get all that money sitting in your account, you want to just spend it all. So it's a number of factors. And yes, it also has to do with financial literacy, because it's not talked about enough. So when no one tells you what to do, you don't know what to do. You keep doing what you've been doing year in, year out. And if you've survived last year, December, you tell yourself, I survived last year, I must survive this year again. But it's not a sustainable, thing. One day someone will be like, I can't help you. And how long are you going to be doing this for? Till you're 60, 70. And if you continue doing this, for example, you might be tapping into your savings. Let's say you follow my advice and you save. Come January, every year, you are using your savings for the last year. It's not sustainable. How then do you build wealth? How then do you prepare for retirement? How then do you prepare for your child's education, and so on and so forth? So it's not sustainable. So, it's this type of chats that is needed. It's reading, it's educating yourself. It's becoming more financially literate that helps you not fall into the January trap.